So we're here in the creative kitchen and we're going to start painting the top coat of the coins. We already established in the videos beforehand that we do want to see hints of the honey beige base coat, which are these light cream colors, and we also want to see hints of the coatStone light gray undercoat. So to do that, I'm going to use my 4-inch foam roller. I'm going to pick up some paint here, and I want to point out that I've got this glaze. So the first thing I want to do is actually, I'll just do this one brick. You want to put a layer, a barrier layer of glaze straight on top of it. And the purpose for that is twofold. First, we're painting on cardboard. Cardboard is extremely dry and absorbent, and it's amazing how fast these latex paints start to dry before you can really do any sort of texturing. So I put this barrier coat on top to moisten the surface, but also to make sure that if I want to pull some of the paint back off with the rag, I can do that and still keep the undertones of the color underneath. So now I have my roller, and of course I already really kind of loaded it. Now, because we want a light touch on the roller, doesn't mean you want to underload the roller. You want this roller to have a good amount of paint on it, not overly saturated, but you'll find the sweet spot. If you underload the roller, you actually have to press the roller harder to get the paint off, and that's where you get too heavy of a coat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to paint this evenly. I've got a very light touch, and I'm watching how the paint comes off on the roller. I want the edge of my roller to kind of follow this grout line. Now I've got a little bit heavy paint here, so what I'm going to do, and I usually do 2 bricks at a time. You don't want to do any more than 2, because what will happen is your glaze coat will dry up. And you do want a nice, it shouldn't be so heavy that you see big white goobers hanging down, but you don't want to be too thin with it either. You want a nice, even, you can see I'm kind of scraping this glaze out of my roller. You want a nice even coat. It doesn't matter if you go over the grout line, it's just going to dry clear. So this doesn't have any pigment at all to it. So I've got a nice, and you'll feel the drag change the more you put this on. It starts to dry almost immediately. So again, I'm going to load this roller, and you know, you'll have to notice that the cardboard itself has a warp to it, so sometimes you won't be able to help exactly what tone you're looking for. See, I've got some honey beige, some gray left in there, and I kind of want to keep that. If I feel like I've gotten too heavy, I can always take a paint rag and dab some of that off, right? And kind of almost just give it a light kiss again, light little peck to reestablish the texture consistency, and that's done. In fact, that looks a little heavy to me, so I'm going to pull off some of this heavier stuff and then just kind of retexture it to bring it on in. If you're spending any more than 30 seconds on one brick, you're spending too much time. And that's kind of a good rule of thumb, is from start to finish, you know, here I am. I've got my glaze. Obviously, we don't want to be hasty, but at the same time, it's not a laborious technique. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to cross hatch it a bit so that you can't see, you know, a lot of horizontal lines or whatever. That's done. I'm going to go on to the next one. Put some glaze up there. And this is a good example of why you will need to re-dip and reload your roller for every brick, because remember, there's water and glaze in there. So we've got a thin mix right here that we're using already. And I've got a nice light touch. I am not putting hardly any pressure down, and that's done. That would be a finished look.